Hey there, welcome back to the Danielle D'Onofrio Daily Podcast. I'm Danielle, and I am so happy to have you here with me today. We're going to talk all about rest in this episode and why it's so hard to slow down when we are early in the healing journey, and especially before we begin our healing. It can be hard to slow down, it can be hard to rest, it can be hard to do things just for leisure, because when we slow down or we rest or there's too much quiet, we start to remember or we start to think or we start to feel, right? And a lot of times we keep ourselves busy, busy, busy to avoid feeling and thinking and remembering. And I understand where that comes from because I have been there. I'm 10 years into my intentional healing journey and I still have to be disciplined about making sure that I rest, about making sure that I sleep about making sure that I sleep enough. I have to make sure that I am taking care of myself and not running myself ragged because I like to be doing things all the time. I like to be productive. I always like, if I'm not, creating something, I am making something, or I'm, reading something. I always like to be doing. And I enjoy the doing. I enjoy the creating. But I've had to learn over time that it's also super important to rest and to slow down. And those things are important because we have to take care of ourselves for one thing. Our bodies and our minds, the holistic self needs to slow down on a regular basis and rest so that we can recuperate and we can recover, we can re-energize, right? But here's the thing is that slowing down and resting and getting quiet within yourself is also very, very, very critical to the healing journey, because that is the only time that we can get intentional about listening for our intuition. Okay, so intuition is going to show up for us all the time in life, whether we're busy or not, right? But when we want to specifically tap into intuition and ask our intuition or ask God, to me it's the same thing. So this can apply to whatever it is you believe, right? To stop and ask the questions that we need answers to, we need to slow down and we need to listen for the guidance, okay? And in my book, which is, the Restorative Lifestyle Method to Healing and Personal Development for Adult Children, I include a number of meditation and journaling prompts to get you familiar with tapping into intuition and intuitive guidance. And of course, these prompts, you can make the prompts up yourself, but if you're new to listening to intuition and understanding what intuition is, I have a number of prompts for you included in the book. But basically, you're just going to start asking yourself questions. If you need guidance and you want to know which direction to go, you just start asking yourself questions. In the quiet of your own home or wherever you are, you can sit and get quiet. If you're on the train on your way to work, if you're in the car, turn off the radio. If you're in the shower, if you're washing dishes, it's great to do it if you can sit in meditation for a little while. Just ask questions and see what shows up. And what shows up, it's not going to always be super obvious. Sometimes these are subtle hints and subtle clues that we get from within. They manifest in the form of hunches and sensations, gut feelings. Sometimes, people have said that they hear sort of a voice or whisperings of something. Everyone experiences intuition differently, and it changes, with every experience in your intuition, right? So, but that happens, it's a subtle thing. It's not booming, it's not loud, right? So we have to get quiet within ourselves so that we can tap into it. And along the healing journey, intuition is your guide, right? That I offer a methodology to give you the sort of themes for healing and growth and sort of the buckets that you want to pay attention to in your life. Those 4 buckets are boundaries, movement, exploration, and energetic self-care. Those are the buckets that you're going to tap into, or pull from rather, to propel your journey. And it's like this healthy, productive cycle that you're going to make sure you hit in your daily life to create sort of this restorative lifestyle for yourself. And, even though you have that guide, understanding where to go within that framework because it's a loose framework. This is not super, super prescriptive. It's like sort of these are the things that you need to focus on, and here's how you can do it. But you're always going to have options. You're always going to have a number of different directions that you can go because this is your customized journey. So you're going to have to tap into your own instincts to understand what's right for you, okay? So we just talked about 2 reasons why rest and quiet is important. The first one was just to be able to recover and rejuvenate the physical body and your emotional and mental body. The holistic self needs rest. The second is to be able to hear that subtle voice of intuition or the sensations or the feelings. And the third reason is because we don't want to avoid our feelings. We don't want to avoid the discomfort that shows up when we've slowed down enough to start to feel things and to start to remember things and for thoughts to show up. We have to over time, okay, maybe not right away, and it depends on what kind of experience, past experience and history that you're bringing into the journey, but over time, you want to be able to learn how to sit with those uncomfortable feelings, sit with those uncomfortable thoughts, and be able to acknowledge them and let them pass through. Because every time we ignore them or we stuff them away, they just stay buried in the body. They actually stay buried in the physical body. Okay, we think of emotions as these just non-physical things that we think, right? But trauma and emotions, they get stuck in the physical body. And not only do they impact how we feel and how we think, but they actually can start to cause, a lack of wellness within the physical body themselves. So part of the healing journey, part of the holistic healing journey, right? Because this is mind, body, soul. It's mental, physical, emotional, all right? Part of the healing journey is healing all of those things and allowing all of the old stuff to release. And we cannot let it release until we let it pass through. Okay, and sometimes it passes through just as a feeling or an emotion. And it can happen with exercise, physical movement. Yoga in particular is amazing for releasing old stored emotions. Sometimes it shows up as a difficult thought that we have to deal with, right? And sometimes it shows up as moods and irritability and any number of different things. But all of that stuff that's buried down deep, right? As we peel back the layers, more and more of it is going to show up. And this is the work. The work is in allowing it to show up, resolving it. And sometimes resolving it doesn't mean we have to overanalyze it. Doesn't mean we have to sit there and talk about it and figure it out and remember all the details. Whatever shows up, we just have to be able to acknowledge it and let it pass through so that we can then be left with, a holistic self that is clearing or more clear of its wounds and traumas and false beliefs. Okay, so we have to let that stuff show up. That's 3 reasons why rest is important on the journey. And again, I know it can be difficult. Sometimes rest, like I said at the beginning of this episode, rest and slowing down and quiet is oftentimes something that we avoid like the plague, right? If you know people who are just constantly busy, 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 and all they talk about is being busy, and they always talk about how stressed they are and how chaotic things are and how they have to run here and there. Being busy like that is a choice, right? Because all of us have a choice on whether we slow down or not. And a lot of times people choose to be busy and stressed constantly because it distracts them from what they actually really need to deal with. And that's totally understandable. Like I said, I've been there. Many of us have been there. But as we start healing, what you'll notice is that you're starting to crave some rest, right? For example, pillar 1 in my methodology is boundaries. As you start to really learn how to set boundaries and you start to create that protected and nurturing space for your journey, you're going to notice that maybe for the first time in your life or since you can remember, you're going to notice that you're starting to crave rest and quiet. You're going to want to lay down and just be alone and be with yourself and just take a big, sigh of relief. Maybe your first deep breaths, it'll feel like if you're taking for the first time ever, or for the first time in recent memory, because because you are actually healing. And as you heal, you start to feel like rest is more manageable, more something you can digest. Because again, like I said, rest comes with a lot when you have experienced difficult circumstances, dysfunctional circumstances, childhood trauma, or trauma at any point in your life. Rest is always accompanied by having to face whatever decides to show up in that moment, and we never know what it's going to be, right? I always say the journey unfolds as it unfolds, right? You cannot predict how it's going to unfold. Progress is going to happen in leaps and bounds. There's going to be peaks and valleys. That's why they call it a journey. It's an adventure, right? And you learn how to cope, and you learn how to navigate what's showing up, and you learn how to move through it, so that you can keep going. Because every time you move through something difficult, that's you learning more about yourself, which is what this is all about. The journey, you're not journeying to some far off land, you're journeying towards your inward, towards your authentic self, so you can meet your authentic self, so you can figure out who you really are beneath the layers of survival and defenses and false beliefs and all of the things that cause struggle in our adult lives. So it's Sunday for me right now. I don't know when you're watching this, but it's Sunday, and that is why I'm reminded to encourage you guys to rest. I'm reminded to rest myself. And another thing I'm thinking about today too, in addition to rest, is indulgence. Another thing that many adult children bring with them into adulthood is a lot of restriction and a need for some sort of control in their lives. And some people deal with that need for control through food restriction and over exercise and things like that. And I've always struggled with those things. And so at this point in my journey, and again, I'm 10 years in, I'm 40 years old, I do eat very healthy, and I do take care of my physical body through movement, religiously. But I'm focusing more and more on how do I do that while also being able to indulge in life's pleasures without becoming uncomfortable with it. So I'll just share with you before we close out this episode, my husband has started making us a special chai drink, like a warm tea before bed. It's just like a new ritual that we have, and I love that he makes it, and it's delicious, and we have a tiny little piece of biscotti that we enjoy with it right now. And there's points in my life where I would have been very uncomfortable having a little piece of biscotti before bed because it's a cookie and it's sugar and oh my goodness. But here's the thing is, if you can change how you think about indulgence and you apply positive thought and affection to those indulgences, I really firmly believe that there is nothing wrong with them. I think that even when it comes to sugar, anything out of moderation is going to start to be unhealthy, right? And when we take anything out of moderation, usually that's a sign that we're dealing with thoughts and beliefs that are causing us to go down that path, right? But I firmly believe that even something like sugar, I think when we're eating sugar and we're thinking to ourselves, oh, this is so unhealthy, this is so bad, this does X, Y, Z to my body, because there's so many people online who talk about how horrible sugar is and everything else, right? Too much of it isn't good, but too much of many things isn't good, right? And every time we consume something or we do something, we partake in some activity, and we're telling ourselves this isn't good, or this is bad for me, but I'm doing it anyway because I want to. That is what's not healthy. It's the thoughts that we associate with these things. Okay, now if you can act in moderation and you can enjoy indulgences in moderation and apply positivity and gratitude to that thing, I 100% believe that there's nothing unhealthy about that. Again, if you take it to an extreme and it causes unwellness, right, or dis-ease, I don't want to use the word disease, but dis-ease, a lack of wellness in the body, then that's something that we have to address. But usually we have to address it from a mental emotional level, right? Because there's always something that leads to why we're taking something out of moderation. So indulge a little bit today in a healthy way. Keep it in moderation, but remember that you're allowed to indulge just like everyone else. and you're allowed to enjoy life's pleasures like everyone else. And as you continue on the healing journey, that's going to become easier and easier for you to manage. It's going to be more comfortable, and it's going to be easier for you to do in moderation without, without it becoming a slippery slope, and then it's too much and then it becomes unhealthy. So rest and indulgence. That's really what I wanted to bring to you on this Sunday. This is episode, what's today? Today's the 12th. So this is episode 12 of my daily podcast for 2025. I'm coming to you with a podcast every single day this year. And if this episode was interesting or helpful, I'd love for you to hit that thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get alerted when I release these every day. And yeah, I'm just really glad to have you here. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you. I appreciate you even if you made it a couple minutes in. I'm just so glad to be here connecting with the community. And just so you know, I am working to release all chapters of my book on my Substack to make it easier and more accessible to all of you guys. So there's a link to my Substack in the description below, and that's just a small subscription fee, and you can research and you can access all those chapters and join the community discussion over there. So I will leave you with that today, and catch you tomorrow. Take care.